Hey guys, I've got a Prismata game between PlagueU and Steel. Let's check it out. Okay, looks like base set plus 11 here. A lot of strong green units. Protoplasm and Doom Mech as the absorbers. With Tia, I think the Protoplasm is going to be a big deal, and there's Cluster Bolt too. It's kind of crazy. I could see like a Centrifuge to get your Doom Mech as well. Very interesting set. Kinetic Driver to stop Tia could be good. Pretty tricky set. Well, let's see what they open with. So PlagueU locked in the 2 engineer double drone. I'm guessing a conduit from Steel. Yep. Makes a lot of sense. Not sure what PlagueU has in mind, whether he wants like a Fuge here or a conduit. I think Fuge can just buy all kinds of crazy stuff. Like, all the colors are good, so therefore Fuge just buys good things. But it looks like he's going for maybe a Patroller opening here. Yep. So Steel just opens the Blast Forge to wall it off. I think that puts him in a good position because I think drones are extremely strong in this set, so just having the drone lead and getting green stored up for all of these strong green units is really strong here. So PlagueU is considering changing his turn. This might be stronger because you have a slow attacker in the mixer, and the kinetic can do fancy things, but I still think it's not like a very strong opening from him, just because it's cutting energy in a set where drones are good. So Steel is still delaying buying more tech, which I really like here. Like I just think it's like a medium to big econ set. If you want to buy a Tia at some point, you're going to need lots of drones so that you can still spend your tech after you buy it. Though because of Proto, you don't need too much drones. Like just having a Proto per turn behind a Tia with a bunch of damage can sometimes be enough. And then Cluster plus Tia is also like a pretty real combo. But yeah, this leaves Steel like very flexible, which I like. Like he can still just go big blue stuff or big green stuff, like with a Asteri. Or he can get the Animus, like really open-ended here. So PlagueU buys a damage into a wall, which is not great. At least now he's like at the barrier, so the absorb barrier, so he can start buying attack without it being sad. I say that, but there's a Doom Mech that's about to come out, so yeah, not too happy with the opening from PlagueU. And there's still potential for him to be okay though if he can get like first Tia and overwhelm Steel, but let's see. So I like the mixer. You want a slow attacker because bottom has absorb potential. And since PlagueU is being so aggressive, I also like getting the Doom Mech. So at this point, he just has to decide, like, are drones still better than conduits that buy cluster? And the money is not very clean, so he's probably going to be floating money no matter what he does. Unless he wants drone NG instead of this conduit. So he goes for the conduit. He has a lot of green stored up. And I don't even know if he'll spend it next turn. Like, he probably wants to wait until he has some permanent damage. Otherwise, some of the cluster damage will be wasted. So neither player wants the red yet. Which I think makes a lot of sense for Steel, and maybe PlagueU as well. He is considering the cluster here. I'm not sure I like that. Like, it only gets full value if your Doom Mech clicks, but it wants to hold. Like, it might change PlagueU's turn, so it has some upside. Like, now PlagueU can't get a Doom Mech, for example, so it's not as bad as it looks. It might be totally fine, I have no idea. Like, now he has to double wall. Or wall plus... Nah, basically double wall, yeah. I mean, a cluster that gets double wall is pretty good, I guess. So I like it. So PlagueU has overtaken steel and drones now, and has more permanent damage. But, well, it's not really true because the conduits are basically permanent damage because of cluster. So it's not like steel's in a bad position or anything like that. So the centrifuge comes down, and like there's definitely ways to spend it. The blue is probably the hardest thing to spend here. Like sinking the blue is not easy. I guess Mixer is technically the cheapest way to do it. Right, let's see what he's aiming for. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like Tia or just like Cauterizer or something. So finally, PlagueU gets the Doom Mech. That's great. And I'm not sure what else he wants to do. Maybe he wants a conduit. Start building up that cluster potential. Oh, an Animus. Okay. Well, Cauterizer is going to be good defense against the Pixies, against the Tia. Or maybe he wants to undercut the Tia. That could be interesting. I'm just a little nervous about buying Tia for PlagueU because it will kill his tech. He won't be able to spend blue, blue, red with it. He changes his turn. He goes for drones and some NGs. The NGs are good against the Pixies, of course. So Steel sticking with his famous strategy of only buying units with skulls on them. He's got the Oxide, the Doom Mechs, and the Kinetic Drivers now. But yeah, I think it's fine in a set like this. There's a lot of tempo. Like he has permanent with the conduits, so he does have some permanent. Of course, cluster only has so much supply, but if you only have a few conduits, you don't have to worry about that. So at this point, PlagueU's drones don't look like they're getting much compensation. Like he's just buying Soak with it, whereas Steel's buying Doom Mech. So it's looking pretty rough for him. He can probably Gambit the Patroller, not getting like absorbing on wall here because the Doom Mech won't attack. And I don't know what his best play is, but it's probably just like conduits. He goes for the NGs instead, which again could be fine against the Mixer Pixie, but maybe he had enough granularity he could have just got a conduit there. Steel looking at clicking his Doom Mech here. I'm not sure what the rationale for that is. Maybe because bottom doesn't have 4 permanent damage, they just have 3 at the moment. Oh, it's because it does an extra damage. Okay, I see. The Doom Mech click here does 3 damage instead of 2 damage. Because it's forcing Patroller Absorb. So that was fine. Oh wait, what happened here? There was a Gambit offered? I didn't even notice that. I wonder if that was a mistake. Like he meant to not allow it. I don't think it's like the end of the world, but should not have offered it, certainly. So the Centrifuge is coming in. And there's a lot of strong things Steel can do with it. I think Tia would be alright. Certainly. Like he has enough drones to support it, and he would get value from absorbing on it too. It lets his Doom Mechs click. So I'm expecting that, I think. Like it's the perfect amount of health here. There it is. He won't be able to spend all attack, but I think it's fine. Like, you just get a Doom Mech here. You can spend a little bit more if you buy like mixers, but that's just not as good as buying Doom Mech, because Doom Mech's just such a high quality unit. So bottom's going to be buying walls for several turns in a row. There is a chance that everything just runs out and then PlagueU can win that way. That would be very interesting if that happened. But there is cluster bolts behind Steel's damage, so... I think he should attack with the dying Doom Mech, maybe. And just wall cluster. Yeah, I like this. I think the Doom Mech's not clicking. I suppose it could, but even if it does, it's not really the end of the world. Like, it would just force Steel to start holding his Doom Mechs. I think PlagueU cares way more about his health than Steel's health, so... I feel like he'll probably undo this, especially because he would have to hold drones. To be fair, the drones will live, though, because the Doom Mechs will probably hold. But, yeah, probably not the right play. He wants to get a new Doom Mech, which makes sense. Because it's about to die. But it just doesn't quite work. I think you don't even force field to save a patroller. Like, you don't really care about permanent damage. Like, drones is your win condition. For the same reason, I don't think I want to click this Doom Mech here. It's going to cost you more drones, right? To do a play like this. Oh, this just, like, don't do this, come on. Like, Steel only has 6 drones. If you just survive, it's, you know, you put yourself in a position where maybe you can win. I do understand he really wants a new mech, though, but it's not like that play helped him get one. I feel like it's not worth it to do this, but it's like it's not terrible. It's just, I guess he only has 2 walls left, but I still would have preferred like double wall there and then do mech on the turn after. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's better to do it this way. You sneak in the 2 extra absorb 1 turn earlier. Although Steel can hold his Tia on 1 stamina against all this absorb, I guess. So that's kind of interesting. I feel like for that reason you could almost gambit. Nah, probably not. Oh yeah, this is getting a little interesting. Like 6 drones is really not much, but if you can just add patroller while buying clusters, like that's still like just enough pressure that it's probably better than PlagueU's 5 drones. But yeah, considering that Steel can hold his Tia, I think that forcing out that Doom Mech was a kind of a big misplay. So this is going to turn into a bit of a grind fest. Bottom out of walls. Oh, it's looking pretty rough for him. Looks like there's just enough here for Steel. And Steel has a bunch of tempo, so like PlagueU can't even add damage and like do anything aggressive here. His line would be to like drone up, but he just doesn't have the tempo to drone up. So that's probably game over. This kind of play is like kind of like a breach-proof play to an extent. And obviously that's not going to work. And there's still quite a bit of gas in the tank for Steel here. So that's going to be it. GG.